What a blessing to be with you here today on this Wednesday of the Word of Encouragement. Today we're going to Psalm 77. Here we see how to keep a vision if you've been walking with the Lord. These last 2 days I've had this as a theme, and the importance of knowing what God's called you to do and having a purpose in your life. Just existing and trying to make each day go without having a sense of divine calling sets us up for Satan to bring great discouragement to our lives. And one of the things that we need to do on a regular basis is to remember what God has done in the past and how he's touched our lives before, and how that if we will yield to him and get right with him, if there's things between us and the Lord, and if we'll take time to fellowship with him, he will continue to keep us right on the pathway of usefulness in our lives. Verse 11 of Psalm 77 is very simple on this, but it's very important. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. I find often if I get into a time where there is real need, there's pressure, there is just difficulties that having to face, to take time to remember what God has done in the past is a great exercise. It's worth the time. The miracles of the past will remind you of the fact that God will continue to answer prayer. He will continue to do that which is beyond what we can do, and he will do miracles. Verse 12, I will meditate also of all thy work and talk of thy doings. And so if we get a little off track, if we allow ourselves to get under the pressure, stop and remember, God saved you. What a miracle. That alone, if you'll meditate long enough on it, will change your whole perspective. Thinking about who you are and the fact you're a child of God, it's an amazing thing. And then remember how God's transformed your life. You're not on the same trajectory you were. Your life could be in a terrible shape right now, but God has rescued you over and over and over. And then think about how God's answered prayer, how God's worked in the lives of people that you love. Meditate on the things that God has done. But in verse 12, it says not only meditate on his works, but talk of his doings. I find that testifying of the greatness of God does something for me that even meditating does not do. It is so important to articulate your testimony, articulate truth to other people. Many times Christians do not speak of what God has been doing or what God is saying, the things that are important that God is burning on one's heart. If God has taught you something, if God has encouraged you, if God has brought you through something, testify of his greatness. You'll be amazed what an encouragement you'll be to somebody else, but I tell you, you'll be more encouraged yourself than even the other person, because you're speaking it forth. You're being used of God to message life to other people, and it'll begin to be firmed up in your heart. One of the great joys I have as a pastor is I have to articulate truth all the time, and so the truth that I study, that's wonderful. But when I have to talk about it, and then I see God use it in the lives of other people, wow, it just becomes very real. And frankly, Satan can't get in when you're talking about the Lord and you are meditating and speaking of his great things. Let me just ask you, how much do you talk about the Lord? How much do you praise him? How much do you share with folks truth? How much do you testify of what God has done in the right kind of way? It's a good question to ask yourself. And if that's not happening very much, then it could be one of the reasons you find yourself getting introspective and discouraged or into yourself. Declaring truth is a very important part of the Christian life. And so today, meditate on how good God's been, and then tell somebody about it. And I promise you, you'll finish the day encouraged.